Michael and his band.
Yeah!
I just want to say that somebody sent me your birthday song this morning, and so I woke up to that link and watched it, and so thank you for bringing a smile to my face this morning.
And your comment brought a smile to mine.
Thank you. It's great to see you guys. How are you doing tonight? Back. Just going to open up my notes here. Thank you, Christiana, for this beautiful lay.
Thank you for joining us.
I appreciate it. Thanks for organizing this. You guys make me feel like I'm right at home.
You are.
Thank you. And amongst family and friends on my birthday.
Yeah.
Thank you. Where's Alex? Is Alex here? Oh, there you are, right here. Thank you very much, Alex, for your help. And Lydia, thank you very much. And to all of the volunteers that we have here who worked hard to put this together. And of course, to all of you for making the time to come out tonight. I know that we had a chance to spend some time together at the Hellenic Council gathering a couple of weeks ago, it feels like. But it's great to be able to have an opportunity here to talk a little bit about some of the broader issues that we're dealing with in this country and how we together are going to bring about not little change, but big change, sea change. You know, it's being in rooms like this with people like you that gives me hope, that fills my heart and inspires me and makes me know for certain that we have a bright future ahead of us. Because no matter how hard the establishment, the powers that be, the self-serving politicians, the greedy corporations, no matter how hard they try to silence our voices for their own selfish interest, there is nothing more powerful than when we, the people, stand united in that spirit of aloha, that spirit of care for each other, of love for our country. There is nothing more powerful, and there is no challenge we cannot overcome when we stand united and lift our voices to bring about that change that puts the well-being of our people ahead of profits, that puts people ahead of politics, that puts the interests of our people and our planet at the forefront of the decisions that we are making. That being at the forefront as we build this path forward towards a bright future for everyone. It is heartbreaking to see how those in positions of power, those in positions of influence are using their positions to tear us apart, to try to pit one group of us against another for their own selfish interests. Whether it be based on the color of our skin, or where we come from, or who we love, or how we worship, or if we worship, all of these different things that make us unique are too often used to tear us apart, to undermine this foundation that our founders set out for us. That we, the people, will be represented by a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. This beautiful vision they laid out for us has been lost now for far too long, leaving us in a place where we have a government that is of the powerful, by the powerful, and for the powerful. That is of the special interest, by the special interests, and for the special interests. Time and time again, issue after issue, day after day, we see the result of this, which is we, the people, get left behind, while those in positions of power continue to benefit, whether it be with power, with fame, or money lining their pockets. They benefit while we, the people, and our planet are left behind. This is what is at the heart of what we need to change. Because whether we're talking about healthcare, or criminal justice reform, or investing in infrastructure, or investing in education, or protecting our planet, addressing climate change, all of these different things require a change in this corruption that has cast a dark shadow over our country. This change that brings the values of service before self to the forefront, to our nation's capital, to the White House. When I raised my right hand and I took an oath 16 years ago, almost to the day, joining and enlisting in the Hawaii Army National Guard, I made a promise to serve our country, willing to put my life on the line, just as every other service member has done. It is those values of service before self that are in the heart of every service member that I will bring to the White House. Those principles of integrity, of honor and respect to the presidency. Because that is what the American people deserve. To have a White House that is truly a beacon of light and a beacon of hope and a beacon of opportunity for every single person in this country. And it is during times like this when things seem so dark, when things seem so bleak, when things like passing the Save the Internet Act, as we did in the House of Representatives the other day, to reinstate net neutrality.
Yay.
Oh, yeah.
And something as simple and clear as, hey, let's make sure that the internet remains a place where any one of us can go and put our content online. That we have just as much a shot as anybody else of getting that content seen or accessing content being put up by other people, regardless of how much money we have in our pockets. You would think that this would be such a simple unifying issue. We passed out of the House of Representatives. 190 members of Congress voted against it. And the very first thing that Mitch McConnell said is that this bill will be dead on arrival in the Senate. That they won't even take it out. Why is that? Why is that? Money.
Money.
Exactly. You have huge corporations who know it is in their best interest to be able to control what we are able to see and access and put up on the internet so that they can make more money. They're the ones who are fighting against this. It is not people. It's not people like us. This is one of many examples. You would think this would be a simple thing. Let's go. Let's make sure that we fight for the people, fight for equality, fight for access. But it's the influence of special interests and big money on self-serving politicians that stands in the way of our making progress. It is too often that we see these examples, time after time, that affect our everyday lives. Just this morning, we were down in San Onofre, and we went there at the invitation of some surfers who wanted to shine a light on the nuclear waste that is overlooking this beautiful beach and surf spot that a lot of them grew up surfing. So what better way to learn about such an important issue than to go? And so we got up at 6 in the morning and drove down there and paddled out for a sunrise surf this morning. It was cold. But it was eye-opening. So as we paddled out there and looked back in the land, the surfers that we were with, they said, see all those blue canisters there? Toxic nuclear waste. Overlooking the ocean. Threatening this community. What to speak of the earthquake fault lines that they're sitting on. So why is it that we still have nuclear power in this country, knowing that this source of energy is creating a toxic waste that'll stick around for 500,000 years? Nowhere to put it. How is it that we are in this place? Something that threatens our survival, something that threatens our planet and future generations. There's a lot of money that goes into those who are continuing to promote nuclear power. when it is not in our interest, when it threatens people. And so now they're talking about shipping this waste to someone else's community. And I heard from people who came out this morning from New Mexico, where they want to take this toxic waste. An indigenous leader from New Mexico saying, no, you cannot come and bring this toxic waste into our backyard. My point in sharing these stories is because every single day we see the repercussions. We see the consequences of what happens when you put profits before people. What happens when you have leaders in positions of power who are so short-sighted and who are not focused on what their mission really should be, on the responsibility that they've been charged with. And it is a great responsibility. That when each of us cast our vote for someone to represent us, we expect that they actually will. That they'll actually hear our voices. That they'll actually fight for our interests. So by knowing and understanding the consequences of what happens when we have leaders who are more interested in their own selfish interests rather than our own, it inspires and motivates us even further to grasp the power that we have within our own hands, in our hearts, and in our voices, to hold those leaders accountable and to bring about the kind of change we know we need to see. Because we will not be left in the darkness. And we will be reminded when those times seem tough, when those challenges seem too great to overcome, we will be reminded by the words of people like Dr. Martin Luther King, who told us that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. That hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. The path is lit for us to walk towards that bright future together. The choice is ours and the responsibility is ours to take action to do so. Now, as you hear many different issues brought up in the news, you'll hear many different political candidates bringing up issues like healthcare and education and infrastructure, climate change, the kinds of big investments that we need to make in our future. I want to bring up an issue that is central to the rest that no one else is talking about. But it is an issue that must be addressed in order for us to make the kinds of investments in our people that we need to see. And that issue is the cost of war. I am in my 16th year now serving in the Army National Guard. Cool. I deployed twice to the Middle East. First deployment was in Iraq, and I served in a medical unit where every single day I was confronted with this high cost of war. The cost that is borne by our troops, and the cost that is paid for by them and by the people in the countries where we wage these devastating regime change wars. Now last week, I was back in Hawaii for a short time, partially to fulfill my own National Guard duty requirements, but also while I was there, I said goodbye to soldiers who were deploying from my former unit to Afghanistan. And it was tough. It was tough. It was hard to say goodbye and give them hugs as they boarded that plane. And just to talk to them. I deployed with a number of them during my second deployment. There were a lot of younger soldiers who I hadn't met, were deploying for the very first time. But a lot of my friends, they were going on their fourth or fifth deployments. And they were talking about the impact. They're talking about their kids. A friend of mine talked to me about his oldest, his 15-year-old girl, knowing he's going to be gone for about a year, saying, "Dad, who's going to teach me how to drive? I'm going to be old enough to get my driver's permit." Talking about his youngest, who's a 3-year-old, and how much she's going to grow up while he's gone, and the stress that's placed on their family members at home. The cost of war is great. It is paid for by our service members. by those who pay the ultimate price who never get to make that trip home. It is paid for by our veterans, those who come home with wounds both seen and unseen, scars that they will carry with them for years to come. And it is paid for by every single one of us. Every single one of us. The taxpayer dollars that come out of our pocket, to the tune of trillions of dollars, going to pay for regime change wars, going to pay for this nuclear arms race, this new Cold War with tensions being ratcheted up between the United States and countries like Russia and China. These are dollars that are coming out of our pockets. These are dollars that are not going to fix our streets, to protect our environment, to make sure that we have health care for all, to make sure that our kids are getting a quality education. So as we talk about the needs of our people every single day, as we talk about the homeless crisis that is facing us in this country, we talk about the pressing needs that we have. We cannot begin to address these needs unless we address where our money is going and how twisted the priorities of this country have been, to where we have too many leaders in Washington who will tell you that, sorry, there's just not enough money. There's just not enough money to make sure that people in Flint, Michigan have clean water to drink. There's just not enough money to invest in renewable energy, to protect our planet and protect our future. Not enough money to make sure that our teachers are paid, to make sure that our kids have what they need to get a quality education. But those very same people will not think twice before they either cast a vote for or advocate for waging yet another regime change war in another country that results in more suffering, more devastation, more loss of life, undermining our economy, strengthening terrorist groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda like we've seen in Iraq and Libya and Syria. This is what we must change. Very few leaders in Washington right now will even acknowledge the fact that as we sit here today, we're facing an existential threat. That as tensions are escalating with countries like Russia and China, this nuclear arms race that was kicked off with President Trump withdrawing from the INF treaty negotiated 30 years ago that drastically reduced the numbers of nuclear weapons and missiles in the world. We are facing an existential threat to the point where we are at a greater risk of nuclear catastrophe today as we sit here tonight than ever before. Ever before. It's hard to imagine, what does this existential threat mean? What does that mean in our everyday life? Well, I'll tell you, in Hawaii about a year ago, in January of last year, we got a big wake-up call.
Yes, we did.
And we got a sense of what that really means. Because we got, early on a Saturday morning, a text alert that went out on over 1 million cell phones all across our state that read, "Missile incoming. Seek shelter immediately. This is not a drill." In all caps letters. Just pause for a moment and think about. If your phone buzzed right now and that message came in, what would you do? How would you feel? Who would you think about? Knowing that you would have just minutes to live. Where are your loved ones? Where can you go? Where can you find shelter? That's what was going through our minds last year when this happened. About where are my parents? I heard from a father was on the island of Oahu, and he had a child on one side of the island, another child on the other side of the island, and he was in the middle trying to figure out which direction he would drive, Which of his children would he spend the last minutes of his life with? It's something that is unimaginable until it happens. Now that alarm turned out to be a false alarm, but the reason why we reacted the way that we did is because the threat is real. The threat is real because our leaders have failed us, have brought us to this point where this is the reality that we are living with today. But the good news is, and the important news is it does not have to be this way. This is what is up to us, to bring about that change in leadership. To make it so that we are de-escalating these tensions. To make it so that we are building relationships with other countries that are based on cooperation rather than conflict. And this is why I'm running for president. Because these are the real issues that are facing us. I'm running for president to end these regime change wars. To work to end this new Cold War and nuclear arms race. To bend the arc of history away from war and towards peace. So that we together can change the course of our past and build that path forward towards a future that is with peace here at home, peace abroad, opportunity and justice and equality for every single person in this country. And that's what I'm here asking of you. Asking you to join me. Join me in this movement. This is not about politics. This is about our lives. This is about our future and making sure that we have one. There is so much at stake, and it is only when we, the people, gather together and stand united that we can truly overcome those tough odds and that we can truly bring about that change that we need to see for each other, for our future, and for our planet. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you very much. We got time for a few questions, and then we're going to save some time at the end to give me a chance to say hello to all of you and take a picture if you like.
Seth, okay, sure.